Good morning once again, everyone. My name is Eric Loprete, and welcome back into Night Talk, the show covering the Knights of Columbus and their good deeds around the state of Ohio. It's always a pleasure to be with you every Saturday morning here on Annunciation Radio. My guest today is certainly a very well-known knight around the state. I am speaking none other than the actively serving State Secretary, worthy sir, Mr. Mike Felerski. Mr. Felerski, how are you doing today?
Eric, I'm doing great. How are you?
I cannot complain at all. It's a beautiful morning outside, and I'm with my friends, and I get to tell them all about the Knights of Columbus, which is always a very worthy topic of discussion. I'm sure you would agree.
I agree. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, we certainly once again want to thank you for taking time out of your day and to discuss the Knights of Columbus. However, before we start, we always want to begin in prayer. We want to thank my wife, Katie Loprete, for providing this prayer to us. So we'll begin in the name of the Father, and Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, in this Advent season, may I wait with hope renewed, for your birth gave every reason to have faith in you. In this time of preparation, may I grow in readiness to share your gentleness and patience, signs of your love for us. The candles on an Advent wreath remind me that you light the way. May I have faith that all I need is already in your sight. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Welcome back into the program once again, everyone. My name is Eric Loprete again. Joining me today is the Knights of Columbus current actively serving State Secretary, Mr. Mike Felerski. And we always, Mike, I always like to begin the interview in this way because I like to have everyone know, why did you join the Knights of Columbus? What was it that brought you into the Knights?
Well, I think simply it was, a lack of a fraternal feeling. When I was in college, I was a member of a college fraternity, and we were a social fraternity, and I enjoyed the camaraderie. So when I got out, we got married and moved to the greater Cincinnati area, started going to Mass, and after a year or so, it's like something was missing. And we have a Knights of Columbus Council at our parish, and they had coffee and donuts afterwards. And I said, well, you know what, I'm going to check this out. And it talked to one of the brother knights there, and he had me sold. And so just based on what the Knights of Columbus do and the brotherhood, and I was excited, but I was the kind of guy that I just wanted to join to kind of just help out, work in the background, work fish fries. Mm-hmm. We deliver Thanksgiving meals to the poor. And we collect money for the developmentally disabled, Special Olympics. And those were the kind of things that I really wanted to get back involved with. And that was we did similar things in my college fraternity.
And that's an excellent answer, and I'm so glad you hit on that, because the Knights of Columbus continue to be that force of good in the world, especially those who may be, who may be in an unfortunate circumstance. But, we continued here today to live out the vision of Father Michael McGivney, and to hear this from you, Mike, is it's incredible, because I'm sure, as you would agree, that's our main function, is helping those around us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, and it's nice to be able to do it not only in your community, but also the councils throughout Ohio coming together and doing it at a state level too. And it's impressive. It's great to be able to do those things. Absolutely.
So you joined, you learned how great, the work of the Knights of Columbus is. But, now that you are a state secretary, and, that's the role that I've known you in since I've known you. But really, what is it that made you step up into a leadership role with the Knights? Maybe kind of take us through a little bit of a chronology of how you got to where you are right now.
Yeah, it was kind of by accident. Like I said, I was just kind of looking to help out. I always called myself just a working dog. And unfortunately, our financial secretary at my council passed away suddenly. And there was a huge shuffle. And at that time, our council was relatively small. Still is, but relatively small. And the Grand Knight turned to me and he said, "Mike, how would you like to be our recorder?" And it's like, oh, okay. And that's kind of where it started. And I was only in for maybe a year and a half. And all of a sudden I kind of found myself there and started working my way up, became Grand Knight. And then I became a trustee for our council. Everything seemed to be, good. And our district deputy was looking for a replacement. And he said, "Mike, would you be interested?" And I'm like, "Me? I just got finished being a Grand Knight." I said, I'm thinking that's quite a position all of a sudden be asked to do. And I thought about it and I said, "Sure, but I'm going to need some help." And he helped me. And that was probably, and you'll hear this from a lot of state officers, being a district deputy is one of the best jobs that you can have in the Knights of Columbus.
Absolutely.
Because you go out beyond your council and you start to learn about what other councils are doing. And I always I had some great councils, some star councils, and I bring those ideas back and share them with my other councils. But then after I was finished with being district deputy for 4 years, again, I'm like, okay, everything's going to be great. Dave Helmstetter, past state deputy, had asked me if I could be on his team because we were starting at that time getting into social media, and he wanted me to kind of start that and drive that. And I said, sure, I'll do that. That sounds like fun. Facebook, Twitter, even YouTube for that matter. And all of a sudden, our district deputy coordinator for the Archdiocese of Cincinnati had to step down from his position, and Dave said, "Would you like to be the district deputy coordinator?" And I said, "I just got finished being DD." I said, "Okay, I'll do it. We need a district deputy coordinator," and did that. Then I went on to do some diocesan membership work after the 4 years of district deputy coordinator, and then along came an election, and some folks said, "You should run for state office," and they said, we need somebody from the Archdiocese. And there's a rotation throughout the state of Ohio, so that you go through each of the 6 dioceses. There are six state offices, and it was basically Cincinnati's turn. So a couple of us ran. I got beat, unfortunately, but fortunately, and it all worked out because I was going to do some other things in the 4th degree. And a couple of years later, the gentleman that was the state officer had to resign, and we had another election. And I got phone calls. People said, "You got to run again. You got to run again." And I turned to my wife and I said, I need your approval because I can't do this alone. And she said, "I think you should run." And the rest is kind of history. You're state warden, and then you're state advocate, state treasurer, state secretary, and then of course the next step is state deputy.
That's right. You are in line. Mike, there was 3 things that I'm really glad that you hit on, as you were kind of taking us through your career in the Knights. The very first thing is, people asked you to be in positions that, you really didn't know. You didn't know what was pertaining to those positions, but you had brother Knights that knew that and they still helped you out. And I think that's so key because I know we have a lot of people, some would-be officers out there that are nervous to take that next step. And I was very nervous when I became a district deputy because I had no frame of reference. But when you step into those leadership roles, you are supported by your brother Knights and they will not let you fail. And that's it. I think that's an incredible thing that the Knights of Columbus do.
Yeah, and we like to let the councils know, too, that we're there for them because any questions they have, any difficulties they run into, that they can reach out to their district deputy. And if he doesn't have the answer, there's a whole bunch of people there that he can reach out to provide those answers and to provide that help. So, yeah. And one other thing about the state of Ohio, and we call it a jurisdiction at the supreme level, the jurisdiction of Ohio, we have a lot of involvement from our past state deputies. And that's not true of every jurisdiction, every state, every province out there. A lot of times, once you're done being state deputy, you're just done. And, I hate to say it, but almost some places they're put out to pasture. And our past state deputies are a fantastic resource here in Ohio, and they're involved. They're there to help. So yeah, there's something special for sure about Ohio and the brotherhood, and working together to be successful.
And I can't echo those sentiments enough. As our immediate past state deputy, Mark Siracusa, is still extremely active in the Knights of Columbus. I see him at every single council meeting that his council has every month. So you're absolutely correct in that. The second thing that you hit on, though, is you didn't know if you were the type of person that we're also looking for in the Knights, because you knew that maybe you weren't quite ready, but you still stood up and took responsibility. And I think that echoes what we're looking for in the Knights. Is we need guys who are ready to step up into these leadership positions, especially as we go forward into the future.
Yes, and that's something that we've seen, especially at the council level, and recently. And unfortunately, the pandemic kind of threw a wrench in the operation, because things slowed down, and there was an attitude change where we're looking for some council officers, and guys aren't stepping up. They're thinking, well, I don't know if I want to, and it's really not a difficult job. Most of the jobs are not difficult jobs, and they're so rewarding. And, there's a lot of opportunity out there, and I hope a lot of the guys take advantage of it. And we're hoping a lot of the younger members get involved as well, because a lot of our older members have been doing it for a long time, and they're kind of like ready to kind of back off a little bit. They still want to help, but we need the younger men to step up a little bit. A lot of times we hear, well, I'm busy, I got a lot going on. And it's true, in our society, there's so many opportunities out there, especially for young fathers. They've got their children, there's sports, there's all kinds of activities. But in the Knights, we never ask for a lot of your time. We just, if you could give a little bit, it can make a huge difference.
And we have about 20 seconds left in this segment, but I do want to just hit on that last point that you made, which was you asked your wife for permission because we need our wives' support. And that's so important to every single Knight of Columbus member when you take on roles, that you have your spouse's support, because without them, it makes it a lot tougher, I'm sure, as you would agree.
Oh, yes. Although state officer's wife, she wasn't exactly sure of what all she was getting into, but she was there to support me. So excellent. That was a great thing.
Excellent. Once again, everyone, you are listening to Night Talk here on Annunciation Radio. We are interviewing the State Secretary of Ohio, Mr. Mike Felerski, and we'll be back with the second part of this interview right after this.
Jesus promises us, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, then I will enter his house and dine with him, and he with me." Jesus longs to be invited into our hearts and into our homes. We see firsthand that lives are transformed through the enthronement of the Sacred Heart. Open the door and welcome his heart. Visit welcomehisheart.com to learn more about this life-changing devotion.
Have you ever wondered about church teaching, what's happening in our Diocese of Toledo, how to respond to challenges to your faith? Bishop Daniel E. Thomas takes time each week to answer your questions on the Bishop's Corner, and he wants to hear from you. Submit your questions at artoledo.com, on our app, or email to bishop@annunciationradio.com. Include your name and parish or town, and listen for his answer on the next show.
Welcome back into the program, everyone. My name is Eric Loprete. You're listening to Night Talk here on Annunciation Radio. We're having a wonderful interview so far with our actively serving State Secretary, Mr. Mike Felerski. Before we go back to that interview, we do have our council announcements. Just want to remind everyone that the Priest Appreciation Dinner is April 29th, 2025 at Greystone Hall in Perrysburg. Dinner is $40 a person, or you can buy a 8-person table for $320. Please contact Chapter Chapter President Matthew Stapleton. For more information at 419-509-5987. Codes for Kids Drive is still underway. Councils can purchase codes from the Supreme website. Councils around the area are currently running drives, so please see your local Grand Night for details. We also invite you to join the Toledo chapter meeting on April 24th at St. Patrick's of Heatherdowns, as they will host a Meet the Candidates night at the monthly chapter meeting. Attendees will get a chance to hear from and ask questions to both gentlemen running for state warden, Mr. Stu Vetter and Mr. Greg Singler. River East Mother Teresa will be hosting their Christmas party on December 21st at St. Ignatius after the 5 p.m. Mass. Assembly 2800 has their Christmas party. That'll be December 14th. Please contact Bob Warnemont to reserve your seats. Doors open at 5 p.m. And finally, Off the Streets drop-off points will continue at St. Joseph Maumee every Saturday from 8 until 12. There will be no drop-off point for St. Ignatius this month, but they will resume in January. That's going to do it for council announcements. And we come right back to our interview with Mr. Mike Felerski, who is the actively serving state deputy, the actively serving state secretary, soon to be state deputy. Mike,
we don't want that to come up.
Right. Not too fast, but, Jack Kiliani certainly is doing a wonderful job, so far as our active state deputy. Mike, getting back into your position a little bit, how has being in a state level position affected your perspective on the Knights of Columbus? Things maybe you've learned, or things maybe you didn't know?
Well, I think probably a number of eye-opening things is one, as state secretary, one of the jobs that you have is to write all of the checks. And we write a tremendous number of checks every year for different, for our different, like the Super Cash Bonanza raffle and our football sweeps program, as well as the different charities. So you start to find more and more of these charitable organizations out there that can use our help that you didn't really know that were out there. And so that was definitely, there's a lot of need out there. And, we try to provide as much as we can. And, but there are some great stories of councils that are helping out a lot of these organizations. And some of them are just great. From building accessible playgrounds to, helping support having an elevator installed in a Catholic school. So, it's kind of neat to see the overall, because you get kind of the smaller perspective when you're in a council of what's going on, or maybe just what's going on in your diocese. But when you see the entire state, it's definitely eye-opening.
And that's something that I've learned a lot about too, especially in my short career in the Knights of Columbus, is just how eye-opening it really is, how great the Knights of Columbus do around the good works that the Knights of Columbus do around this state. Speaking of accomplishments that the Knights do, I really do want to ask you, as state secretary, you're certainly someone who's been around the block in terms of the Knights of Columbus, but so far, what's maybe one of your proudest accomplishments as a Knight, or maybe just as part of a council?
I would say probably starting councils. When I was a district deputy, I started a council up in Monroe, Ohio, and this is my first year, and I'm district deputy, and they said, we want to start a council up here at the parish. It's like, okay, what do we need to do? And it was go. And, when we finished and got to present that charter to that council, and that council is still successful to this day, that is just an incredible accomplishment or feeling. Now, I had a team around me and everything, but in those days you had to FedEx all of the Form 100s to Supreme. Oh. And it was get all these things together, make sure they're right. If there's something wrong, we've got to get it fixed right away because it's got to go off. And then a little bit later on, I had the opportunity to help start a couple of councils close by me here. And again, that same feeling, when it all comes together and that council is formed, and it becomes successful. That's one of the things I really enjoy.
And obviously, I'm sure starting a council is very intricate work, but can you just kind of sum up for us, like real quick, maybe what goes into actually starting a council? Just in case maybe we have someone listening today that maybe doesn't have one that'd like to start one.
Sure. The state of Ohio has a great plan that was put together a number of years ago by Gabriel Minton out of Cleveland. And it's basically a week-to-week kind of effort. You start out with the first week at Masses, have the pastor do an announcement. The second week, you would have a district deputy or a state officer do an announcement. And then the third week, you would have a parishioner who preferably is a knight at that time, also give a little talk at the end of Mass. And you have a table in the back. Now, back then you had paperwork. It was all multi-part papers that you had to fill out for those Form 100s. Nowadays you can do it all online.
Yes.
But shortly thereafter, you schedule an open house and you invite everybody. It's not just the men, it's the wives, the families to come in and to learn a little bit more about the Knights of Columbus. And then explain, what we're trying to accomplish at the parish. And then shortly thereafter, after that, we go ahead and host our degree, which is our exemplification of charity, unity, and fraternity. And that process has been very, very successful. Little different for college councils. And just before we started talking today, I received an email that several of the students at Xavier University down here in Cincinnati are looking to form a council.
Amen.
And they reached out. We've got a district deputy assigned. And a couple of weeks ago, the Supreme College manager for this area stopped by to talk to the students up at Miami University, where we just had a council started a little bit more than a year ago, and then to find out what's going on with Xavier. But an interesting thing he brought up in our conversation is he said there's some talk possibly at maybe starting a college council up at UT, and that would be fantastic.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I had not heard that, but yeah, that is fantastic. And it's even better to hear about young men, especially in college, especially with all the distractions that young college men can face. They're focused on their faith and doing good works in the community. That must be, going back to what we said, about wanting younger men to take up these positions. That must be very refreshing to you.
It is. It's exciting too, because there is a core. I know we've had some issues over the years with young people leaving the church, but there is a good solid core of men and women out there that are younger, that are college age, that are really interested in their faith. And some of it actually was driven by an interest in the traditional Latin Mass. And they wanted to know more about that, and they got more involved in the faith. So, yeah, it is kind of exciting because we had kind of a low period. We've got a lot of councils where we've got a lot of older members, and we've got councils now with younger members. I think the average in the Knights of Columbus now, and this is worldwide, and I could be wrong, but I think it's somewhere around the age of 54.
Okay.
And that's actually, it might be lower than that now, but it wasn't that long ago that it was actually higher than that. So, it's coming down every year, which is really, really great to hear.
Well, and that is wonderful to hear. And while we're speaking of positive things that are happening with the Knights, I kind of want to know, especially with you going to be the incoming state deputy, is what is some of the hope that you have for the future of the Knights? Maybe not just Ohio, but just as the Knights as a fraternal organization, and what are you hoping to do to help drive that?
What I'd really like to see is growth. And we talk about that in a lot of the Knights of Columbus meetings, bringing new members in. But I think growth in that one of our biggest issues is marketing. We really don't get the word out. And I've talked to different Knights, different councils, and I said, well, you guys should, mention this in the bulletin that you do this or you do that. And they said, well, we're not out for awards. We're not trying to brag. And I kind of understand that, but at the same time, if people don't know what the Knights of Columbus do or who we are, then it's going to be hard to grow and share this great experience of the Knights of Columbus with men in our parishes and our communities. So I'd really like to see us find a way to get the word out more. And the other thing is also our core initiative, Core Heart for Latin. And that is to get back to more of the faith aspect of the Knights of Columbus. Because if we show people that we are faithful and that we do a lot of faithful study and faithful acts, that they'll have more of an interest in the Knights of Columbus rather than just kind of seeing us as those guys that cook fish and then, they'll work the church festival and drink beer and play cards. Which maybe there are councils that still do that, but, we're so much more than that. So I think getting the word out to help grow the order and grow the core initiative.
And that is a absolutely wonderful, well said answer. And we certainly, as a whole, as far as the Knights of Columbus go, look to help and achieve those goals, not only this year, but as we turn the page to the next fraternal year as well. We have about a minute left, Mike. This has been a wonderful interview. Thank you so much once again for joining us. We've been on with Mike Felerski, who is the actively serving state secretary in the Knights of Columbus. One final question I love to ask everyone, especially first-time guests, is which biblical figure would you like to have lunch with and why?
I would say the Apostle Luke. And I think it's because I enjoy his gospel and the way he wrote it. And there's certain aspects of it that, it's like, why, ask him really why this or why that or why did he write this or, what his, cause I know he was divinely inspired, but I don't know. I just connect better with Luke than the other gospels. So that would just be cool to sit down with him.
Excellent. Mike, you've done a fantastic job here today. This has been a wonderful interview. Once again, want to thank everyone for listening. You have been listening to Night Talk here on Annunciation Radio, and we will see you next Saturday.